all the differing missing links discovered by people unique to their own journeys and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to have back for a second time a freedom activist, animist, spiritual anarchist, public speaker, and father. He's the co-creator of Natural Freedom League video podcast and the Freedom Under Natural Law conferences, and also a content creator on the One Great Work Network. Welcome back to the Missing Link, Will Keller. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jesse, for having me back on. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome. So why don't you start off with telling us about yourself and your journey, a little bit about your background, your education, what part of the world you grew up in, what part of the world you're in now, if you like disclosing that information, anything about your experience, what got you into freedom fighting, into animation, what got you into the whole movement, if, especially, to share with our audience here today, especially if they may be hearing you here for the first time.
Excellent. I just turned a few days ago, 42 years young on the 3rd of March. And it's
Happy
been quite,
B-Day.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's been quite the journey. I'm a father. My daughter is almost 11 years old. She's definitely the focal point of my life. I've been born and raised in the Bay Area of Northern California my whole life. I reside in the East Bay Area in between Oakland and Sacramento currently. And I had a blessed childhood. I grew up on a ranch. Full-blown ranch, very close to my family. We were outside of a suburb, and that really gave me some really good experiences being close to nature. And recognizing the forces and the authority of nature herself. And I've had that with me since I was a young child. So my family is very open. I consider my grandpa the original anarchist. So, I mean, he fought the state for many years and lost many battles. But in my family, we understood right action and morality. My dad, the principles, do the right thing, never lie, and someone does not own you, and responsibility and accountability. So very young, I had these moral principles that I could transmute and understand that government itself is invalid, is illegitimate, and it has no actual, natural, real authority over anything. And this wasn't, my whole family kind of understood this to some degree. I went through the public school system. I thought it was a big joke the whole time I did it. It just felt silly and artificial to me. It wasn't until later on in my 30s, mid to late 30s, mid 30s, actually, when I really, truly educated myself. But coming out of public schooling, I got into the music industry with hip hop and rap. I was an artist, a rapper. I toured all across the country and the world. That was a fantastic experience. Really got to learn to grow and learn about myself. Then becoming a father. And within those last 10 years, that's where a lot of the growth. Coming out of my music career, I lived that lifestyle, right? Partying, going out, doing all this kind of stuff. I was in a, somewhat serious relationship. So all of a sudden now I have that responsibility and that accountability that I'm going to be a father, right? So it was a hard progression coming out of my music career and that lifestyle into adulthood and fatherhood. I found myself in drug addiction, which that was the catalyst to what I call, my personal awakening that really put the lens on myself and my own psychology. The pressure of about to be a father was there, and becoming a father. And I battled that for about, 1 to 2 years solid, and then finally came out of that. And I came out of that upon my own accord and my own will power. But first, I educated myself. I wanted to know, how did I get to this place in my life? What makes me tick? Why do I do the things that I do? And that made me confront myself literally in the mirror and ask myself these hard questions and really dissect and analyze and distill my own very being. And that really, I continued that seeking. I activated that seeker archetype, and I continued that into many other categories of life, quickly finding myself into occultism and the mystery traditions, which I loved, diving into those aspects, primarily understanding more about nature. Even as a young man, I understood that nature is the authority, right? And this is what nature means. It means non-man-made. The word itself means creation, creator, from the Cometian tradition. I understood that very early on, and I constantly wanted to seek and progress and dive deeper into nature. So, of course, coming across fantastic, great minds such as Mark Passio, Michael Tessarion, Walter Russell, Nikola Tesla, just profound works that gave me the tool sets to have a clear perception of myself, but also the world, the environment by which we operate. And it wasn't until about 2014, 2015, coming across someone like Mark Passio, What on Earth is Happening? His work really aggregates a large body of information and brings it down to the real world, present time, present moment on what is going on in reality. And, a couple years staying in there and getting the grammar and educating myself, leading myself out of the darkness. And you have a clear understanding of what is going on, then that moral obligation and responsibility it weighed on me for a good portion of the time. And then finally in about early 2019, I decided to take action, which means go public, started doing interview style videos and then presentations, started a video podcast with my partner at the time, John, Natural Freedom League. Connect with like-minded individuals, make the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference, and it's a process of evolution. So I'm learning from a lot of people, and it's been hell of a journey. Did I freeze? Looks like, oh, you might be on mute.
So what on earth is happening then?
Great question. And this is the focal point of my work. My motto is simplify the profound. Taking these deep, esoteric concepts, categories, and how do they apply to the real world, our modern age? There's so much great wisdom from the past and from the ancients, but if it's not applicable, if you can't apply it in your life and to what is going on in the world, it's useless. It's just empirical knowledge. You can't do anything with it. So having that level of comprehension is vital. So in all my work, I focus on the causal factors, the root of the problem of human suffering, of what is going on in the world. And especially with the pandemic, it's that there's a great awareness that something's not right for humanity, for the planet. A lot of people understand, governments are tyrannical. The corporatocracy is, out of control and is also tyrannical. A lot of people understand this, but to diagnose a problem, we need to have a correct diagnosis. Diagnosis means by way of knowledge. So I focus on the cause, which any cause, is in the metaphysical realm. It is in the realm of mind and thought. So when we look at the world today and we see all this control, coercion, duress going on, there's a reason for that. And that reason stems in the minds of people, of the majority of people. So focusing on nature, like I said earlier, and how nature operates, how reality operates, this is fundamental. We need to understand that we need to have these first principles on how the self, meaning our mentation and how we operate and function in reality, but also reality itself. The law of manifestation. There's a lot of misdirection out there, but focusing on these laws and knowing that the collective is comprised of individuals. So what an individual does matters. The energy, the ion, the action that they perform in the world adds to the pot. When you aggregate all the individuals, you have the collective. So what's the condition of humanity? The aggregate condition, the collective. So looking at it from that lens, this gives us a peek into the average individual's mentation, mind, psychology. So to put it very simply, and I can, unravel this as well, but I'll lay out the blunt, hard truth. The majority of human beings in the world do not know how to think correctly. Thus, they take incorrect behaviors and actions. So what do I mean by that? I'm talking about what's the most basic thing in this reality in context to human beings. It's interaction, right? We exist in this reality, and we are going to interact with other beings and with each other. So what is the condition of that interaction, right? This is morality. Morality is the difference between right and wrong behavior. When I say this term morality, this is the crux of what I'm talking about. When I say morality, a lot of people, maybe even a lot of viewers right now, they immediately think of religion. Religion itself, the cultural religions have co-opted this term morality, the difference between right and wrong, and they have used it for their benefit. So this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about inherent in reality, in nature. We are going to interact with other people, and if we initiate harm or aggression, that is a wrongdoing. This is an immoral act. So, and of course, there's unlimited amount of natural rights that we can take. A right is any action that does not cause harm to another being. So when we look at the world, how does this apply to the big picture? Well, we can see that governments are still in control. They are in control because the vast majority of people believe that they have an authority. They believe that governments have the right to exist, and they do not in nature, not in truth, right? Because what government is based on, it's individuals that hold a belief. That belief is human authority over other human beings, over other beings and the land, the air, the water, right? This authority is illusory. It's illegitimate. It doesn't exist in nature. It exists, though, in the minds of individuals that believe it does. So they support and condone and comply to the dictates of government and its institutions. So understanding that by this compliance, by this belief in human authority, this will dictate and influence one's behavior. And this behavior is immoral and it is a wrongdoing. Now, if the majority of human beings have this incorrect thought of the belief in human authority, and since our actions are based upon our thoughts and emotions, then their actions are not going to be in harmony with truth or with nature. So therefore, we are manifesting in the collective. We are all manifesting this condition of control, slavery, tyranny, and duress. So the crux of my work is getting to people and having them understand what objective morality is, that there is a definitive standard in behavior, and that is harm or consent. A lot of people may agree with that, but applying it to the world is where I see a lot of the resistance. The ego wants to kind of run wild. Well, we've always had government. There's always been some type of control system in the past. That does not mean that it is right, correct, and should be that way. All interactions should be based on voluntary interaction, consent. We see this in our daily interactions throughout the day. You go to the grocery store, you interact with people, it's all voluntary. No one's holding a gun to your head. But yet we have this control system that is coercing and violating, causing violence upon the planet and the people and its inhabitants. So understanding objective morality and that the law of manifestation, it's based upon our actions. It's based upon how we actually manifest our current human condition is based upon our actions, right? Because we are acting in the world, we are performing the energy, and that has that's the cause, and there is an effect. Now, of course, that's the physical domain. Once you perform the action, once it manifests, it's part of the effects of the problem. So the cause is always in the metaphysical realm, and that is thought and emotion. So education, by far, is number one. People need to understand what objective morality is. They need to understand the illegitimacy of government and the belief in human authority, and then align their behaviors to truth, to that right action and thought. So, and feel free to interrupt me at any time.
I was on mute again.
Right.
The way that things are going right now on its current trajectory, and a lot of people feel that they're living in harmony with themselves, with nature, but could that be more further from the truth? The way things are right now is really most people, if not everyone, is living in disharmony, because right now it seems like things are very inverted and things aren't what they seem. There's a lot of deceit, there's a lot of deception, talking about this false authority, this prison planet, this matrix that people seem that they have freedoms in, but it seems very almost disingenuous. It's almost like it's in disharmony on how things should be running here. And I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, well said. I absolutely believe that true freedom is the natural state for this planet. Now, the condition can go either way, because we're talking about the laws of nature. The laws of nature, they do not care about feelings or beliefs. It operates a certain way. So if we are performing a certain type of behavior, then we're going to see the effect of that. So if the majority of human beings on the planet are acting and condoning and supporting violence and tyranny, right? So if there's immorality, then we are absolutely going to see control and slavery increase. If morality increases, then we are going to see freedom increase. That is the law of freedom right there. It's that simple. But like you said, we are all contributing in some form or fashion, and it's the individual responsibility and duty to minimize this harm that we are doing. And the only way we're going to get out of this mess is through, the first step is always through education. So we need more people to understand what objective morality is, what natural law, the laws of nature are, right? The laws of nature, this is cosmic moral law. This is giving us the condition that we deserve. And that might sound harsh, but that's the truth of the matter. Now, it's also karma, right? The word karma means action. In Sanskrit, that's what it means. It means action. So you perform action, you're going to get a condition in return. Now, of course, there is individual karma, right? This is the accumulation of the energy, the behaviors that we have done throughout our life. It's not instantaneous. It doesn't happen automatically. Like I steal something, I walk outside, a piano falls on my head. That's not how it works. It works over a large period of time because we're in this physical dimension. It's a lower density, so it takes time for things to materialize. The law of freedom, when it comes to the collective of humanity and the condition, it's all about the actual collective behavior. So all the individual pieces of monads, the units, the individuals comprise the actual aggregate, of the condition. So the first thing we need to do is educate people. People need to take this. They need to have that level of understanding and then align their behavior accordingly. So how do we create change in the world? There's two ways to create change. There's philosophy and technology. Philosophy is the internal modality by which we are diagnosing a problem internally. We are asking ourselves the big questions. We are asking ourselves, what is the problem? We are taking in information. And then once we come to resolve or solution, right, then we can apply it in the physical material realm through technology. If I am tired of eating food with my hands, I recognize the problem. It always starts in mind, always. This universe is mental. So I recognize that there's a problem. I don't want to eat with my hands. I think of a solution. I invent a fork. Crude example, but that's how it works. The metaphysical philosophy, the internal dialogue, and then the external application, which is technology. What we're doing right now, we're using technology to convey a message. And in the modern age, how do you influence and educate a large group of people? Well, in our day and age, we need to do it through the internet. We need to understand the tech applications, how to create an efficient and effective message and publish that on the digital battlefield. This is what the social engineers and the parasite class, this is what they do. They have billions of dollars, a huge media campaign, social media. Everything is done in the digital domain as far as influence. Because this is what they want to do, right? They want to influence the minds of people. It's called perception management. If they can influence and sway your perception so you view the world a certain way, then absolutely your behavior, your action is going to be affected by that. Behavior management for behavior control. So this is what we need to do. This is the first step. Right? The first step is always education. And looking at the current state of the world, right? Like I said earlier, I do see a large awareness, meaning a lot of people understand that there is a problem. Okay, that's great. People are recognizing there is a problem, but that doesn't mean the correct information and knowledge is being conveyed to people. There's especially in this digital era, right? There's so many rabbit holes and misdirection and so much information. People get stuck in this state of mind. It's tunnel vision. It's like an information junkie where, man, I don't know what truly is going on because there's so much information. Everyone's got an opinion, right? And an opinion, it's right there in between ignorance and actual gnosis, knowledge. So this is what I focus on. I focus on the correct, most fundamental, most basic knowledge that we need to know. And that is how to correctly think in the world and act in the world. And that's through objective morality and the laws of nature.
So here we have Aeromas from our Rumble channel says, heading towards digital prison. When you have someone that, verbally speaks this way, does that not help get to a digital prison? If someone was to feel that, if they were to say they'd like us to become into a digital prison, but we won't let that happen, would that not be reversing that kind of spell opposed to helping manifest that prison into existence?
Well, we need to understand how reality operates. Like I was saying, the law of manifestation is based upon actions. Thoughts and feelings are in the metaphysical realm, right? They're in the internal domain. Your emotions will not materialize an event. Our thoughts instruct, our emotions amplify and direct, and our actions, we actually create the action in the world. So when somebody, and I see this quite a lot, people, they get discouraged of the state of the world, right? I mean, it's chaos, a digital prison. Why do anything? All you're doing is discouraging yourself by thinking this way. This is what the emotions do, right? And the voice is the bridge. This is why the voice is so powerful. This is our tool. This is a sword in between the internal and external worlds, right? Because we use our thoughts and we feel, and then we externally project our voice out there. So when someone is being, outright negative, they're really harming themselves because it's just reinforcing their inaction and how they can't do anything. It's pointless. This is keeping them in a place of stagnation. So yeah, we want to change this verbiage to solution based, right? And understanding morality and knowing that true wisdom is moral right action, so that regardless if we see any kind of turn in the human condition for the better, it might not be in our lifetime, then we have to deal with that and accept that. But it will come down to individuals taking action. So this is why I implore people to first take in the info and then act. We need more people acting. Thinking and feeling will not do it, right? There's a progression to it. This is what true unity consciousness is. Thoughts, emotions, actions. Thoughts instruct, emotions direct, and actions construct, build reality in our physical domain, right? So unity consciousness is true alignment, which is as I think, so I feel, and so I act. When people think incorrectly, when they are ignorant, or when they feel a certain way in a negative capacity, this creates an internal contradiction. So you are less likely to take the correct actions when you are in this internal contradiction, right? This is what we need to do. We need moral right action. So someone contributing to the solution is absolutely a moral right action. That energy adds to the frequency, to the vibration of, the collective voice, the collective pot of energy. The social engineers, their voice of deception and control, the energy that they are putting out in the world is huge. But who is actually performing that in the real world? It's people that believe in human authority. When we think about, when people say, the parasitical class, the people behind the veil, the social engineers, we are talking about a very small, minute sliver of the population. Those people are advanced psychologists that understand how reality operates and how human psychology operates extremely well, unfathomable, to be honest. They are not creating anything. Sure, they are evil, they are bad people, right? But you kill all of those people off, we're still going to have the same condition, because the majority of people still hold a belief system that is based in immorality. So they will be replaced. The condition will continue. The people that are actually creating this harm are the order followers, right? The police, the military, nurses, doctors, school teachers. These are the people that are actually performing in the real world, in the physical domain. When it's time for the police or military to start knocking on doors and taking guns, who does that? It's an actual person, a human being. It's the police and military. The social engineers can give all the orders they want. They can influence people and give these type of orders, but there's still an individual that is actually doing it. Just because a quote-unquote superior said drop a bomb on a hospital, a school, or a village, the person that flew that plane, pressed that button, and dropped that bomb is 100% responsible. I'll say 99% responsible. Because that person performed the action. So this is something that we need to understand. Who is the enemy? Art of War. Know thy enemy. Now, of course, the social engineers are evil people. They're part of the enemy. But the enemy is the unconscious, asleep masses of individuals out there that are keeping the system going, and they're propagating the system. Now, when I say the term enemy, I don't mean that as in they need to be, taken out. We need to reach these people and educate them or influence them. Ultimately, we can't force them to do the internal work and change, but through our creative essence, the divine essence, we have the ability to influence and to inspire and educate, and this is what we need to do. So this is how we kind of reach the unconscious masses. We create art. Like we're doing right now. Art is creative expression. That's all it is.
And with that unity consciousness, if you help one, you help us all. You harm one, you harm us all. Is that the same then if you harm yourself, you harm us all? You help yourself or heal yourself, you heal or help us all as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We always need to look at things, I'm talking about duality, but ultimately it's like perceived duality, right? Here's a good example. The word individual means non-divided. So when we think of individual, yes, it means a single unit. Jesse, you are an individual. I am an individual. But the etymology, it means a single unit that is not divided from the whole. So it's holographic. You take one piece of the single unit and you have the whole picture in that one little unit. So this is why the collective, the human family, the planetary family, we are all connected, right? There is no non-division. There is no division in that. So what we do, if it's either inaction or action, it adds to the collective. So this is why people that, think it's hopeless and, well, we're not going to see that in our lifetime. I'm not going to do nothing. Yeah, you're harming the human condition, right? You're not helping it at all because of your inaction. So the ancient proverb of heal thyself and you heal the world.
Now, there's a lot of people that have that, misconception that I'm only one person.
Mm.
What could I do? And, I guess purchasing power is a big one because where you decide to vote with your dollars, with your money, with your currency is the energy that you're putting into that area. And if people would stop putting their currency into big corporations or things that keep this slave machine going, taxes, things that keep the slave plantation going, and they decided to be a lot more wiser about where they put that currency, a lot more focused on localizing that currency as opposed to internationalizing that currency. Would that not be that one person making a big difference?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that will be making a huge difference. And this is what, mainly, I mean, the education, number one, that's educating yourselves for the mind, but ultimately aligning yourself with nature and your and right action. So how your very being and how you operate in the world to the best of your ability. You want to do this. Absolutely support local farmers, meet your local farmers. But understanding that the solution is, of course, living in harmony with natural law and nature. Absolutely. But to educate and influence and inspire, we need to know that to do this is to educating ourselves on technology, how to publish a message efficiently and effectively. Now, does that mean everyone needs to start a podcast? No, we can do this in multiple myriads of different types. I have friends in my circle that they do it through dance, through writing, through books, through the local. So yeah, it can be done in many, many different ways. I think incorporating that message of first principles, which is morality and natural law, learning how to think and learning how to act in the world so that we recognize that the belief in human authority, aka government and government's institutions, don't have any type of authority. And it is a violation to the world, which is violence, 100%. And condoning that is keeping us in the condition. So, although acting locally is good, I think there's a good balance for that. Getting out into your community and educating the community. Doing something in the digital platforms is where we can affect the most change, because we have, I do in-person presentations in my local community, and I love it. I love doing the in-person events. I might have at the most 50 people fill up the place, the small little venue that I'm at. But if I do something like what we're doing now, we have potential to reach many, many hundreds and thousands of people over a certain amount of time. And it's immortalized. It's on the digital ether where people can watch it 2 or 3 years from now. So there's kind of a method that needs to be known, that without the technology, we are going to be operating at snail pace. And these social engineers, for sure, probably have far more advanced technology than they make public. I mean, they absolutely do. So we need to be able to have that efficiency and that effectiveness, and we do that through the digital platforms, for sure.
And we have around 100 people here now, and we're going to reach many thousands of people. So, even though, we've been very shadow banned with obviously our content doesn't align with, the New World Order, kind of stuff. So they don't push us in the algorithms. We've been slowly picking up subscribers on every single supporters on every single platform. And, we're slowly but surely reaching more and more people. So that's a bonus. We have Donnie here that says we need to get rid of the dark satanic slave religion of materialism, false value worth. It's God's currencies, gospel, economics, and practice, commerce, business, trade. What are your thoughts when you hear Donnie, say this?
Yeah, well, we need to understand that it's all religion, right? When we look at all the facets of society, they're all religions. Now, religion, it's etymology. And I always go back to the etymology because that's the original vibration. Sure, words, definitions, they can change. There's a lot of, relativism in the words that people use nowadays. But understanding the etymology, the origin of the vibration is important. So what is religion? Religion is religare. And what it means to bind or to thwart from forward progress. To bind what? To bind consciousness from evolving and advancing in truth, in nature, to harmony. So it's not just the cultural religions. It is, the media. It's really anything that binds one back, that stunts their forward progression in consciousness towards harmony to nature. So we look at even sports, entertainment, right? These are religions. You could say video games. I'm not saying you never play a video game, but this is a religion for a lot of people that play it hours upon hours each day. It is binding them back. It is thwarting from forward progress. Excuse me. Fiat money being the main driver of materialism, and everything that they do and they focus on evolves around paper sigils and the fiat currency. So a whole bunch of things, right? These are religions. So when we talk about unity consciousness and becoming free, it's a full-blown mindset accompanied with actions. That's what it is. So yeah, we need to understand what materialism is. What are the ends and the means by which people operate? And just like in my first story about me being my addictions, I like telling that story because this is what humanity needs to do right now. They need to look in the mirror and ask themselves, why do I believe the things that I believe? Why do I do the things that I do? And reducing that down to the very foundation and fabric of reality, which is interactions, morality, and natural law. So we do need to give up a lot of these religions. We need to leave these religions. We need to strive for truth in nature. This is what truth is, that which is. And, I firmly promote this is what animism is all about. Now, anybody can say, oh, animism, it's another ism. It is, absolutely. It's just a label. But what does it mean? Animism is where animation comes from. So animism is recognizing it's a worldview. It's a perception, right? It's a perception and a worldview of viewing nature as alive and spirit and life force and consciousness in everything. And there's levels to this. This is a perception and a perspective that I think a lot of people need to understand. Because when we look back on the ancients in the distant past, we see that a lot of the indigenous, even the indigenous cultures today, they are very much more in harmony with the natural world and the forces of nature. This is the animistic perception, right? The worldview. And so there's a lot of benefit to that. So when we think about, living in harmony with nature, it's, of course, abiding to the laws of creation. And that goes in every category to what we put in our body, to where we spend our energy, right? Our money, who we support, the work, the internal work that we do, our interactions with people, and doing something like the great work, which is the external work of educating people to end human slavery.
What does anarchism mean to you? Because some people feel it's lawlessness and,
Mm.
total chaos, but is that not if further from the actual truth? And maybe if you share what your thoughts on anarchism is and, how that could play a role in the future to get back from that disharmony into balance and harmony once again.
Excellent. Great question. I love it. Right after when I was talking about animism, because animism and anarchy go hand in hand, right? So let's start with definition, right? Definitions, clarity of meaning. So the etymology, the definition of anarchy is an, which is the Greek, without, archon, rulers or masters. So anarchy literally means without rulers and masters. So that's all the definition means. And there's a purpose, a rhyme, and a reason why the social engineers over many, many years have, bombarded the public on media and TV that anarchy is chaos, anarchy is lawless. Anarchy means no masters, no slaves, no rulers. It does not mean no rules. So what are the rules? Obviously, the rules is natural law, right? Do not transgress upon another sentient being, right? Do not cause harm. And there's a whole bunch of rules, right? Knowing that your actions are going to have a consequence. You have the right to defend yourself if transgressed upon. So these are the rules. They're built inherently in nature that we can discover and align ourselves with. So anarchy to me, and I still use the word anarchy. I'm an anarchist. I'm one that believes in no rulership, no masters, no slaves, no slavery, and this is exactly what we need to see. So what is the condition if there was no rulers or no masters? That's the condition of freedom, right? Because freedom is, the state of freedom is unrestricted free will expression. So you are able to perform your natural rights in reality, as long as you don't violate someone, but you can perform your free will expression without violation or restriction. That's what freedom is. Anarchy and freedom, they're synonymous.
Now, when you said do not transgress over another sentient being, what does sentient being mean? Because if some people believe that animals are a sentient being and, we shouldn't be harming animals, and then others don't consider that a sentient being, how can anarchy, be in harmony if people, different people in the same area consider, sentient being something different?
Great question. And there's a couple things I'm going to say about this, and a lot of people don't like hearing what I'm about to say. So sentience means you have obviously consciousness and emotion, right? So sentience is a level of consciousness. So we talk about the mineral, the plant, the animal, the human, and so on. You can the celestial, right? The planet itself is a being. But when we get to animals, right? This is where animism, anima means soul, right? So it means that you have consciousness, you have emotion, you're endowed with soul. Everything is endowed with spirit. So yes, when I say do not harm any sentient beings, this includes the animal kingdom. So now, it's a very hot button topic for a lot of people, right? Talking about, vegetarianism, veganism, carnism, right? It's a hot button topic, and people are so polarized that they can't even sit and get into a place of cognitive function where they can hash out and have that philosophical understanding of this. There's so much emotional reaction. So yeah, I am saying that we should not harm animals 100%. And I will say this as well. Plants are not sentient. There's studies and documentaries saying the inverse, saying that, oh, plants have emotions, they respond. This is where understanding nature and really the body of occultism, plants are not autonomous on the planet. They are a part of the celestial planet. So plants it's like hair or fingernails. It's a part of the planet. They do not roam autonomously. They do not have autonomy like the animals do, right? And animals have their own free will, and roam upon the earth. So this is a huge distinction. Now, plants are conscious, absolutely. They have a certain level of intelligence to it, right? There's levels of consciousness. They respond. They can recognize. This is all through the vital etheric plane. This is why I said getting into the body of occultism, understanding that there is the mental, the desire, and the vital planes of existence. There's the physical planes of existence, right? These are not separate realities. They are layers of our one reality. So understanding that plants do not have emotions. They do not have a central nervous system. They do not have higher order thinking or anything like that, right? They do respond to energy. This is where the studies get it wrong because of their ignorance of occultism and understanding animism and nature itself, that plants respond to all kinds of things. It's a stimulus response. It is not emotion. So I exclude plants from that. So that's really important. If we look at the human condition, if we look at that we are physically enslaved, most people mentally enslaved, but slavery on this planet, just think about what we do to the animals. There's a correspondence and a correlation with factory farming and the mass slaughter of animals. Right? This is a satanic ritual. When I say satanic, I'm talking about the belief system, the state of mind that someone believes they can say what the law is, living in their ego-dominant self, right? I'm not talking about Christianity, horned devil Satan. Satan, Shaitan, means the opposer. So it means opposition to what? To nature, creation. When I say nature, I'm talking about God, source, the all. I personally use nature because the word nature means creator, and natural means creation, of or from creation. So I know that was a lot there, but it's such a hot button topic when you get into those types of categories. Now, I will say this. And I've gotten a lot of slack, even within the natural law and anarchist communities. I have been a vegetarian for 5.5 years. I mainly do it for a moral reason, but also it agrees with me in my life very much, right? First and foremost, for the moral reason. I do not have the right to violate animals, and neither does anyone else. But they have that free will choice to do that. So, but we are not going to help or aid the planet or the animals until we take care of our own shit. Meaning we educate ourselves and get rid of this religion of the belief in authority until we make progress on that. Now, yes, you can do both. I do both. And that's someone's personal, individual journey that they need to discover, educate, and come to understand and hopefully align themselves with and walk that path. It's a lot of work. It's absolutely worth it. So yes, we can do both. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. First and foremost, we need to eradicate government, but it's done there's a congruency that is done in my personal evolution, my internal work of working on myself. I quickly made it to vegetarianism, and that's where I'm at.
What's your thoughts on labels? Because I
Mm,
feel that labels separate us. And when you say, vegetarianism, like I stopped eating meat 7 years ago, but I don't call myself a vegetarian. I just
yeah.
say I stopped eating meat. When it comes to, I was born again, 30 plus years ago. Yeshua lives in my heart. I'm one of God's warriors here, but I don't call myself a Christian. I think
Yes.
that labels tend to separate ourselves from ourself, and it almost puts us in a different place. And I think we need to really, this unity consciousness, we got to come back together. And I think labels is one thing that keeps us divided.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And this is the hard truth about it. The majority of people are spiritual infants. That's what it comes down to. They are rooted in the mammalian level of the brain, which the mammalian from mammal is our animal characteristic. It kind of operates emotions, right? So when I say spiritual infant, I mean that someone is not truly activated in their higher order thought functions, and they have not grown up and reached adulthood. So labels, although it is a label, a word is a word. A word does have internal power, right? But what does it mean? That is where we need to get to. So I agree with you too. I don't, in a lot of my presentations and work, I don't say I'm a vegetarian. I rarely speak about my diet, because using certain terms and just words and labels are so triggering for people that it immediately initiates an emotional reaction. And when you are in that reactive state, your frontal lobe closes up, your nervous system goes crazy, and all you're doing is really waiting to projectile vomit your opinion or how you feel. So it keeps people from not being in that student-teacher dynamic of learning, right? To learn, we need a couple things. We need to, A, listen, take in, and two, convey, speak, right? This is the foundations of great communication. So this directly goes back to my motto of simplify the profound. How can you talk about the abolishing government without saying certain harsh words? And again, I don't tippy toe over someone's delicate feelings. I say what I mean, and I'm going to speak the truth. But if we can convey a message in a multitude of different forms and fashions, then we absolutely can reach many other different types of people, right? This is why comprehension is so important. A lot of people in the anarchist community, they use voluntarism, which, sure, I don't have a problem with that. I'm honest with myself. If I hear a word and I don't really know what that is, I say, hey, I don't know. I don't know that word. Can you explain it to me? But people are so reactive, and they're stuck and rooted in the base level of consciousness, the mammalian brain, that they are just emotionally reactive. So this points back to, part of the one great work of, if you truly understand and know something, then you can easily convey it in many different ways. And this is what we need to do. This is why the solution is educating people on objective morality and natural law, right? Now, we can have millions of people talking about that in totally different ways, in different outputs and everything. And that's fantastic. It's not saying we need an echo chamber. It's just saying if you understand it, you can convey it in many different pathways.
You mentioned voluntarism. I've heard that quite a bit. What does that mean? And how does that, some people say that we should go to more of a voluntarism based society?
Yeah, good question. So I look at anarchism is the philosophy, right? The worldview, the external, the overarching view of no rulers, no masters, and no slaves. Voluntarism is more of the practical, the application of anarchy, meaning voluntarism means that all interactions need to be based on voluntary consent, right? And if it's not voluntary and if it's not consensual, then it's coercive. That's what voluntarism means. A lot of people use that term because of what we were just talking about. The word anarchy triggers people, and people automatically go to their perceived mental definition of, oh, chaos, burning cars, oh my gosh, and which is based in ignorance, right? And fear, because all ignorance is based in fear, the lack of knowledge. So that's what voluntarism is.
Now, when we mentioned, anarchy before, and I had said that some people think that that's chaos, someone commented, well, we're in chaos now. What's your thoughts about this order out of chaos, Freemason type of, programming that, they want to create the chaos so they can come and be the order of it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are in chaos. Pure real chaos, right? Per the definition. We are externally enslaved, and it will get worse until we actually understand the cause of the problem and the solution. So yeah, the dark occultists, they have that principle, order out of chaos, which means that it's problem, reaction, solution. They can create these problems to get a reaction, and then they will provide the solution. So it's their order, right? A principle that the dark occultists use is the principle of inversion. Inversion is taking truth and nature, creation, and flipping it up on its head. Now, of course, you can't truly do that, but this is what sorcery is. It's giving the illusion of that. This is why they propagate false information through the schooling system, through mass media, all this kind of stuff, right? Generational mind control. They say truth doesn't exist. They say freedom is slavery and chaos. So they invert everything. Health is through needlecraft, etc., etc. Go down the list, right? So this is what they do. They invert they take the information of truth and they invert it, and they propagate that. Because what happens when you propagate deception and you can influence people to believe the lies and the deception, then of course their actions and behaviors are going to be in opposition to nature. And therefore, you are going to get the outcome that they want. See, the social engineers, they want to keep people in covert slavery, because covert slavery is a lot harder to diagnose and to become aware of. It is more dangerous. It has more longevity than overt slavery. Overt slavery, it's easy to see. It's right in front of you. Someone just got killed, whips and chains, shackles. You can see it. So there's no contradiction on the problem, right? It's, oh, I'm enslaved. We are enslaved. But covert slavery, it gives you the illusion of freedom. It gives you the illusion of choice while you are enslaved. That's what covert slavery is, and it's far more dangerous. And this is ultimately what, mind control is. Mind control, external mind control, influencing the minds of the masses to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, and to ultimately act a certain way. And they want to keep humanity in this state of confusion, duress, coercion, And this is why they give us little breadcrumbs here and there. It's for the illusion that we are thinking, oh, we are gaining steam. We are making a difference. There's a great awakening, right? They'll do that because they understand consciousness. They understand how consciousness can naturally progress in its awareness, right? So think about, UFOs or, epigenetics. Like, this is stuff they're talking about now, which 50 years ago, you would have been locked up and put in an insane asylum. They know that they need to kind of give us these certain types of information. It's all for misdirection and control, because where they don't want people to be is understanding and knowing the causal factors of what is going on. And that is ultimately the body of information of occultism, which is knowing oneself, the psychology, and understanding nature and how nature operates, meaning manifests and responds to us. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Celia says, have you guys heard of the Illuminati card game? I have. Have you heard about it? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I have it right here, actually, right down there. It's funny. I actually found one at a yard sale, brand new. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a relic. It's like a relic. I will say this though, because I think spirituality in general has shifted quite a bit. What we say the New Age, meaning, from the, 70s, 80s, and 90s, 2000 era, right? I almost consider that like kind of classical New Age. But spirituality has definitely shifted into what I call like watered down mysticism, where there's a lot of quote unquote coaches, spiritual doulas, life coaches, this kind of stuff, talking about alchemy. And they are talking about some great esoteric principles for eternal work. But there's still a lot of deception there. And controlled opposition does not necessarily mean it's a paid agent from the state, or from the alphabet organizations. You can be opposition just by the way you think. If you don't have a grasp on the cause of the problem, then you are absolutely in opposition and you're not going to provide or initiate the solution, right? So the spiritual community, they've kind of traversed into, occultism, the categories of occultism, and people think that the enemy is Freemasonry and stuff like that. Like we need to understand that the lodge system of Freemasonry is like just it's a kid show. It's a puppet show. It's just there for people to think that that's where the orders and the influence is coming from. The social engineers, you will never see these people on TV. You will never know their names. This is a dark a priest class that does not care about money. All they care about is energy, souls, and being God on this planet. That's what they care about. So they are the ones behind the veil. We see people like Urari, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates. These are the puppets. These are the puppets. They are there for the public to see and think, oh, that's the enemy. Those are the one. That's the person we need to get, or whatever it may be. That all that is perception management. Now, those people are pieces of shit for sure, but that's not the ones that are directing or the shot callers, so to say.
What is the Illuminati in your eyes, and how much power do you think it actually has in modern day civilization? So
one of the biggest misdirections is kind of what I was talking about, like the new spirituality, branching off, and it's the Illuminati. We need to understand, and this the reason for this type of ignorance that I'm about to state is because people actually have not ventured into the category of occultism. Occultism, the word, means hidden knowledge. Occultare from Latin means hidden from the eye, the oculus, right? So all it is hidden information. What's the most occulted or hidden information on this planet? It's obviously self and natural law. So it's understanding the laws of nature and how it operates in our external and in our internal environment. That's all occultism is, right? So, but you can have light or dark. So if occultism is just knowledge, it depends on the wielder of that knowledge. The person that has that information and what they do and what they act on with that information is what matters, and is what categorizes them as a light occultist or a dark occultist. So the term Illuminati, right, this is an ancient term derived from, the Cometian ancient Egyptian, from the Eye of Horus. What it means creation. It means natural law is omnipresent, all around us, always seeing, that there's always an effect for the cause. There's always a consequence for our actions. This is what the Illuminati is. Originally, etymology. Now, you've had groups in the past, I forget the name, from France. I think this was in the 1500s, that took that term from occultism and they coined it for themselves as their group. So the word Illuminati,
Weishaupt, I think his name is.
I think you might be right. Yeah, Weishaupt. There's been a couple groups that have done that, and they've changed over the generations. But they took this word Illuminati, which means illumination. That's what the word means. It means someone that is enlightened, that understands reality, understands themselves, understands natural law. That's what the word is, referring to, obviously, the Eye of Horus, right? The all-seeing eye. So originally, this is not a negative term or symbol. It's just talking about God, ever-present, natural law, nature. So, but it's been co-opted. And of course, within the last, several years, people are saying, oh, it's the Illuminati, which essentially what you are calling those people, which they are the parasites of this planet. They are the worst of us, right? The social engineers, these dark occultists, you are calling them the enlightened ones. They are not the enlightened ones. Jesse, you are Illuminati. I'm Illuminati. Anyone else that understands what is going on in the world and is taking action in the world is the true Illuminati. That's what that is. And that's just the fact of the matter. So words have power, but they have power in the sense of mentation, affecting our mind. So when someone says the Illuminati, then of course they attach a definition. Whether that definition is correct or not, they attach it to it. And from there, that will kind of dictate how they respond or act in the world. And this is kind of the problem with having incorrect definitions or ignorance in general of words and terms or symbols.
So Daisy May says, yes, anyone with true light would be an illuminated one. So
Absolutely.
Like that. So when Jim Carrey came on to the Jimmy Kimmel show and said, come on, you know what this tongue is, and you're part of this Illuminati and all this kind of stuff. And do you think that was part of the script just to get people off track? Or do you think that, he actually came out of his own volition and, actually, did that to shine more light, towards that subject?
Yeah, good question. I'm not too sure if that was, planned or not. I mean, just look at like Cat Williams, just, recently on Joe Rogan, he's coming out, talking about certain aspects. So, for sure, the social engineers love messing with people's perception, because perception, the thought obviously, controls behavior. That's where our behavior is derived from. So they love dark occult mockery, right? They'll have celebrities do the one eye thing. So they like propagating this kind of stuff in the media. It's really to get an emotional reaction from the public for the ones that think they know, right? So, but I'm sure, absolutely that there's, quote unquote celebrities that have came out and, talked about some of the dark stuff that has happened in that industry. Many of them have died and we haven't seen before. There are, tons of alternative doctors have been. Just look at Nikola Tesla, Wilhelm Reich, Walter Russell is another one. These are people that, had their work hindered and restrained and suffered because of what? Because of someone like J.P. Morgan for Nikola Tesla, right? The state, they believed in government. They believed in the state, so they would take their work to the government of that time. And of course, they're going to get taken advantage of. So these social engineers, they love messing with people's perception, and this is why getting down to causal factors, getting down to the cause is so important, because you can stay black-pilled your whole life, meaning you are just stuck in that realm of analyzing and observing the effects of what's going on, meaning you're just focusing on the events, the current events that keep happening, and you stay stuck in there, right? Oh, here's this next false flag or this psychological operation. It has happened. It has manifested. There is absolutely zero change there. Now, understanding the symptoms is important for like just waking up or having that initial awareness that there is a problem. But staying stuck there is where a lot of people in the quote-unquote freedom and truth movement are. They're stuck in the black pill phase of just talking about, the next current event that comes up and how bad it is. And of course, there's horrible shit going on. Absolutely. This is why we need to act. But we need to move from that black pill to the gold pill. And that gold pill is absolutely wisdom, because wisdom is action. Right moral action. So understanding the cause, the causal realm, and then acting on that.
What's your thoughts on New Age? Because, that's the easy scapegoat for people that, for them to target. If you're doing yoga, that's New Age. You're playing with cards, that's New Age. I hear this all the time that, people that are, afraid of others, they'll cast them as New Age. And, it's another label that seems to be dividing people. But I hear that label so much in especially this last 4 or 5 years, popping out and coming out at a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's so many, the labels are a problem. I don't think it's so much the problem of the label itself, but it's more about the person conveying a message and the receivers of information, like I was talking about, right? When people aren't in that, they don't have high teachability, where they're in that, slightly skeptical and slightly trusting phase, where they're right in the middle path of student teacher, where they are open to receive new information, consider it, and then give their decision on it. So, alchemists, like, these terms. Now, I've seen so many different type of, New Age extensions. What was the one that I saw? It was Transcendence Doula. It's like, there's another word. And
what is that?
Like transcendence, like you're transcending to a better version of you, and a doula is like a midwife. So there, it's just a kind of a catchy, kind of like, maybe a marketing term. I'm not sure what this person had intended, but labels they don't bother me that much. I want to know what the message is. So when I watch someone, Alex Jones or whatever, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I want to understand, I want to listen to what he's saying and what he's conveying. And then I take that information and, apply it to my truth discovery process of critical thinking. So it is about the context. It is about the message that an individual is conveying. So yeah, I'm Will Keller, freedom activist, anarchist, animist. I have those on there hoping that someone will ask me, what is an animist? What is an anarchist? But a lot of people might read that and just go, or, someone says, see, freedom activist, oh, he must be a Republican or something like that. And they automatically, throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the message is where it's at. And this is where we need to get people to kind of understanding. The New Age, there's still a lot of deception in like the New Age communities. How do we kind of unify the left brain anarchists with the right brain New Age spiritual people? Right? Because the left brain anarchists that understand, government is slavery. Yeah, that's great. But they don't have, that big of an awareness of spirituality, consciousness, energy. And then the New Age right brain dominant individuals, they understand consciousness and energy. They understand that we are all one, but yet they are in an imbalance where it's all about how I feel. And, good vibes only, ignore the negative. So they haven't made that recognition that government is slavery, right? This true fact. So what's the unifier on that? And this is where our education comes in. And I definitely believe that objective morality is that unifier, because it's simply, the definition is the difference between right and wrong. And if we can start there, which is first principles, then we absolutely can work our way up. And the reactiveness between these factions of quote unquote truth seekers, it's at an all-time high. And it's because of labels, right? It's like people don't want to associate with certain people. We need to bring different camps together, get them on camera, get them in person, and they need to have good, deep, hard conversations on the cause of the problem and the true solution, the effective solution. And I think we do that. I think we're going to see an amplification of the solution, and we're going to see a good uptick if we can get to that level. But again, it always starts with the internal work. So even people now listening to what I'm saying, apply introspection on this for, a day or two. Go back, watch it again. And then so the internal work of processing it internally must come, and then you make your conclusion, and whatever your conclusion is, then you align your behavior with that. We don't see that much. We just see somebody reacting. I like what this person said on one thing, so they subscribe fully and they hop on the bandwagon. This person said one thing they don't like, they throw out all the other information. So it's a reactive state, and I think we got a lot of work to do. I'm a realist. I'm pragmatic, and I always kind of keep a sliver of optimism. The question is, can we achieve true freedom on this planet? Absolutely, 110% we can. But will we? That's the question. Willpower is the key factor. If we are going to will it into existence, if individuals are going to use their willpower to act in the external world for the solution, and that's, we'll see on that. We will definitely see as time will tell.
When you talk about willing it into existence, wouldn't that make the New Agers that are willing this love and positivity part of more higher up on that scale opposed to the ones that are going around, we're going to be enslaved, it's new world order where it's digital stuff is happening, and that's what they're seem to be manifesting into existence.
Yeah, it all depends on the action that they're performing in the world. So yeah, if you're right, this is what I meant by there's too many black pillars out there. There's too many people in the truth and freedom or spirituality, truth and freedom communities that have podcasts or do presentations, and they just talk about how dark and how evil and how messed up the planet is, the human condition, which is valid, but they're not providing the actual causal factor or the actual solution. And same thing with the New Agers, right? They're doing the same thing. They're putting emphasis on, oh, it's all about good feelings and good vibrations and do you and your truth. Just speak your truth. Don't worry about anything else, right? Which is it's not addressing the actual causal root of the problem, and it's not giving the actual solution that needs to be implemented. So the key factor here is correct action. Right action, the correct kind of action. So this is what we need to see. The solution is understanding objective morality and natural law. Because when you understand objective morality and natural law, you understand that government, the belief in human authority, is the problem in the mind of individuals, and people are acting in the world based on that belief. So they are condoning, supporting, and acting for government and the institutions. So that's what I mean by the cause, right? Once we understand that, and that is implemented in the world, then we will start to see a shift in the dynamic of the condition, whereas the government and its institutions start to dissolve, and we are, creatively doing our new systems that are aligned in nature and truth, in moral, right action, morality, then absolutely we will see freedom. Right? So the scales will shift. So that's the key factor. So the black pill people need to talk about the actual cause and the solution. And it's almost, you have the New Age, which is spreading hopium to keep people in a mental cage, in a limited perceived box, which is a religion. And then you have the black pill people that are just constantly talking about the current events, is keeping a limited bandwidth of perception, a cage for awareness and consciousness, because they're not talking about the causal factor and the solution, right? That's a religion as well. So these people need to evaluate themselves, take a step back. I do this in my work where I go through self-evaluation. Like, what can I do differently to convey the cause? And what can I do differently to convey in different ways the solution? And that's the hard part for a lot of people when they're stuck in their habit, when they're stuck in what they've been doing for a long period of time. They identify with that. So they think they are their persona. This is what the ego does. The ego wants to calcify the physical material self, what we think we are, whether that be, I'm a New Age guru, I'm a transcendental doula, I'm a radical anarchist, whatever it may be, right? We identify with that, and that keeps us stuck when we need to constantly do that internal work. It's a lifelong process. But the important part is understanding, are we talking about truth? What is the truth in reality? We are enslaved upon our own doing because of the belief in human authority. So that's where we need to get to. So it's a constant self-synthesis of ourselves. And a lot of people, they just don't want to do that work, and it's an ongoing process. But this is what we're here to do. Just as you, Jesse, inspired thousands of people with your work, and I'm trying to do the same with mine. Other individuals can do this, and they can do it in many different methods and modalities. And So that's kind of the heart of my message on the solution.
Heath K. Diane says, I wonder what he thinks of the AI machine. When we interviewed Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong, one of the things he said was, yeah, AI is going to fix everything. It's going to fix our environmental problems. It's going to fix our government problems. It's going to fix everything. And some people have that, faith, I guess, to say that this artificial intelligence is the solution to all of our problems. And I was just wondering what your thoughts on that maybe are.
Great question. Yeah, this is a popular kind of topic that's came up with me many times. Again, you see both of those examples that you talked about, right? They're both polarizing, meaning they're on an extreme end of polarity. AI is going to save us all. It's going to give us, utopia, but that's usually through government institutions and corporations running that AI. And then you see that AI is, sorry for my dogs, they're playing. And then you see the other polarizing polarity is, AI is going to kill us all, right? They're both polarizing and they're both limiters of awareness and consciousness. We need to understand that as our current technology is advancing, we have AI, that AI is a tool like all technology. All technology is a tool, and that's there for us to utilize. And it can be utilized for good or bad. The governments and the institutions and the social engineers are absolutely going to use that to influence us, and they're going to use that for negative consequences. 100%. We should be using those tools for achieving freedom and ending the condition of slavery. For instance, as a content creator, there's many different tools that you can use to increase your workflow, your effectiveness. I mean, there's many different tools out there. Someone can use AI to make a full-blown movie if they have that understanding, and they can convey the message of truth and freedom and what freedom is and how do we achieve freedom. So again, it comes down to the context of the wielder of how that is being used. So again, I personally, I'll say this, if we look back in our ancient ancestors, they were very much advanced in technology. They were advanced on a different type of polarity, where we humans nowadays are very much in the materialistic. This is why we have these mechanized devices and AI, etc. But yet our ancients had advanced technology in a energetic and a more harmonious realm of nature. Sorry.
No worries.
So,
keep going.
So we can see that understanding where we're at now and utilizing the technology, which is the technology, using these tools for logic to help us with the solution. This is the mindset that we need to be in. Because guess what? AI is not going anywhere. They're going to use it as a tool, the social engineers. So we need to understand what it is, educate ourselves, and utilize it where need be.
Now, what about, artificial intelligence? I guess Diane's second question, part of that was, what does he think about the robotic takeover of all the mom and pop shops and most corporations that, if, robots and artificial intelligence and all these things are able to take all of people's jobs that they use to create currency in order to live, then does that make the human slaves now obsolete? And then where do we go from there if, the ones who are actually pulling the strings no longer need human slaves because, the human slaves were able to build them all the technologies, mine all the robots, create all of this infrastructure that actually makes the human slave obsolete?
Sure, it's a possibility. That could absolutely be a possibility, but we're not there yet. It's not happening now. So we need to not focus on the potential future. We need to act now. We need to have present moment awareness on what is going on right now, and we need to ask ourselves, what am I going to do? That's the question. There's so many different ways this could go. And on our trajectory, it's not going to get easier. It's not going to get better. Slavery is going to increase. The social engineers are absolutely transitioning. This was kind of the whole thing about the pandemic. That was a way for them to merge and transition in the new grid and control system. This is what they want to do. They want to transition into that new system of control, which is tightening the grip on humans. And guess what? Maybe the human population, the numbers are not where they want them to be. So some type of genocide, mass murder, that's absolutely a possibility. But that's not where we're at right now. And a lot of content creators and people that are propagating these messages of the what ifs and, oh my gosh, this can be so scary. You are propagating fear. You need to propagate the solution, the cause. So individuals, instead of taking in information and saying, oh, well, yeah, that sounds like that's what is going to happen in the future. There's nothing I can do. It's pointless, or I'm going to bug out to, the forest and detach myself from society. You are not contributing to the solution. You're not acting in right action and implementing affecting the change that needs to be affected. So there's a lot of fear mongering. So that's one thing. The first thing you have to do is accept our human condition. You need to understand the cause, that we are enslaved, and it's not going to get better. Accept that, meaning that is our current place in time. That's where we are at. The next question is, what am I going to do about it? What's going to be my contribution or participation? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves on an individual level. So that's where we need to be at. There's a lot of people that are stuck in that black pill phase of the what ifs, and this is where we see it going. We need to ground ourselves and have that present moment of awareness of what we are doing or what you are going to do now. So,
what is truth if so many people see it differently? Like, here's Tracy says, what are his thoughts on people who just refuse to believe, accept that their government would ever harm them, even though there's so much evidence to the contrary. You have people that believe in the Bible, you have people that believe in the Quran, the people that believe in the Torah, that's people that are in Buddhism. But what is actually truth if potentially this is a holographic universe, if so many people actually see the truth differently?
Good question. So what is truth? And simply put, truth is that which is. It is that which has manifested in the past and is manifesting in the present moment. That's what truth is. So when I say something like the truth or the absolute truth, we are talking about natural law, because natural law is past, present, and will be there in the future. It is the governing dynamics by which everything operates on. So that is the absolute truth. When we ask ourselves, what is the truth of the current human condition? It is what it has manifested in the past and is manifesting in the current moment. How do we discover that? This is where we use the process of truth discovery, right? Which is the process of truth discovery known as the trivium is a process of critical thinking, by which you gather all of your information and all the grammar, step one, from an eclectic array of sources. Gather all the raw data Then we have step 2, which is the logic phase or the understanding phase. This is where we apply filtration and we eliminate the contradictions and we synthesize the information and correspondences and correlations, right? And then the third phase, which is the rhetoric, where we come to our conclusion, which we're quantifying that data and that understanding, and then we are putting it out into the world. Grammar, logic, and rhetoric, or input, processing, output. Input the data, the raw data, process that data, and then output it in our conclusion, in our behavior. So when there's so many people that, they believe this religion is the truth or that religion is the truth, they are not correct. How many people actually are in that place of learning where you have a Christian that will sit down and look at something like natural law? Most of them think occultism is, from Satan and it's a negative aspect, and they close their mind. How many religionists and fundamentalists in, all different types of religions are closed-minded? I would say the majority of them are, because they have deceived themselves in believing that their belief is the truth. Their way is the truth. They have not applied the trivium process of truth discovery. This is what every individual needs to do. If you want to find out, probably one of the biggest things that we need to understand is that the term right and correct. So when someone says, well, my truth, your truth, his truth, her truth. Okay, was I happy yesterday? Yes, that's true. I was happy. That's not the correct wordage of truth. You would say, correct, I was happy, because right and correct are based in truth. Truth is overarching. That's what truth is. We use this word truth. Many use it, incorrectly. So, did I get a flat tire last week? Which I did. Then I did. Correct. Yes, I did. Because it's based in truth. We use wrong and incorrect because it is in opposition to nature, to truth. So we have these words for a reason, and they can be used correctly, but it really comes down to open-mindedness. And, how is someone truly open-minded? If how are they truly open-minded? Meaning that they have a willingness to take in information, to process it, and to change. So this trivium method of truth discovery, this is what it was designed to do in the ancients. It has been eradicated from every educational system all over the world for many, many years ago. In America, coming from the Prussia education system, they never even had the trivium method that they've used. A lot of the education system, they promote the inverse of the trivium, which would be the grammar and the rhetoric. They take out the logic. So meaning that they give you information and then you respond or you act upon that information that was given. So this is how reality manifests. Like I was saying earlier, but the trivium method applies to this, right? So layer 1 is available information, meaning that an individual acts in the world by all the information that they have accumulated in their environment, through their research and through their perception, how they perceive the world. And then they act upon that information, which creates a manifested result. So the social engineers, what level information, understanding, behavior, then manifested result, which level does the social engineers want to infiltrate? Available information. This is what all cultural religions are. They are limited cages of consciousness and awareness. Every Abrahamic religion, Christianity, Muslim, Judaism, stems from the ancient teachings of animisms or pagans. This information of nature and the environment was taken and utilized. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot learn esoteric information within these cultural religions. Yes, you can, but that's why it's the esoteric, because the esoteric is the hidden. It's the occulted information within the cultural religions. The exoteric is what the mainstream, the majority of the public believe it is. So just because someone believes what something is does not mean that it is truth. And this is where a lot of the majority of people are in. They believe that belief itself is based in truth. All belief is based in dogma, and that's why it is a belief, because it's not based in facts, logic, reason, truth. So that's my long spiel on that. Ultimately, someone needs to apply, they need to learn and apply the trivium method of truth discovery. And that's why it is the process of truth discovery. And this is also is what is going to lead us to have an accurate perception of what is going on in the world, so we can take the correct, appropriate response and actions towards that solution. So reality, you have truth, which is that which is, which has manifested and is manifesting. Our perception is the lens by which we view the world. Our goal as human beings is to align our perception to the truth so we can take correct actions. That's what our goal is. This is what perception is. This is why information is so powerful. Right? Because you can, if you can influence someone to believe something, then their behaviors are going to be dictated upon the information that they hold.
When I first asked you that question, we had a bunch of responses to it, and I'm just gonna read them out, and then there's you can respond to that, or then there's a different question kind of afterwards. But Chris says we have to consider what the word actually means. Don't confuse truth with belief or perception. Diane says truth is physical fact. Andrea says who dictates truth controls who's in control. And no man holds truth, yet all men should pursue it. And I thought that was another good one.
Absolutely.
And then Taffy says, where do you get natural law from? Is that like from a different dimension? So I don't know if you wanted to comment on the other true stuff, or you can go right into the question.
Yeah, I'll wrap up on on truth, and then I'll go to this last question right here. So yes, truth is the manifested condition. What has manifested in this world? In occultism, they make the delineation of absolute truth, which would be, referring to the all, source, or God, which is really talking about the metaphysical, and then you have just truth, which is the physical. But these are not separate, right? The metaphysical and the physical are one. They are one. They're not separate in that context. We can talk about them like they are separate. It's always inward out, thoughts to behaviors, right? And this same thing applies on the macrocosm. So truth is independent from our perception. No man holds truth. No one makes up truth. Truth just is. So we are independent from that, right? So with the comment where, whoever says or holds the truth or makes people believe the truth is in control, the truth is independent. So it just is. But yet, this is where the social engineers come in, and they invert or they propagate false information that is not based in truth. And that is where people, they take that in, and it's entrainment for individuals, and then they have incorrect actions and behaviors because from that false information. So absolutely. The last question is, let me see, what she was saying. Does it come from a different dimension?
Where does natural law come from? Does it come from a different dimension?
So I would say, reality is objective. We are all co-creating in one reality. Now, there's multiple dimensions, viewpoints that you can say in that reality. So that's one thing that we need to understand about objective reality, is that we are having an individual subjective experience in an objective reality, meaning that reality operates by laws, by governing dynamics. So when I say a word like natural law, let's define each word. We have natural, which nature or nature, NTR, is Commission, meaning creator or creation. Natural is of or from creation. And then we have the word law, which the correct definition of law is an unchanging, immutable, and binding condition. That's what the word law means. So natural law is the immutable, binding, universal, non-man-made, governing dynamics of reality. And this is the metaphysical and the physical. Many people understand the physical laws, thermodynamics, gravitation, magnetism, but yet there's also the metaphysical laws of mentalism, polarity, cause and effect, vibration, rhythm, mental gender. So it's not from a different dimension. Nothing is above the law. It permeates all the metaphysical and the physical. This is the laws of nature, the cosmic law, universal law. All those terms apply. They are the governing dynamics by which respond to the action that we put in the world. So this is what objective reality is, meaning that reality operates a certain way. And we can come to know and understand these laws, these dynamics, these conditions on how they operate, and then we can align our behavior to these dynamics to bring about a certain outcome.
We have here, just got to scroll back to it. Andrea says, I'm not getting a clear picture of what society he is talking about would look like. What does the societal structure or lack of it? What are the components? Is it governed? Sorry about the spelling, such a bad. I have a difficulty typing. That's all good. And then one more question, maybe kind of relating. So I'm going to read this as well and answer it how you wish. Mm-hmm. So Will is a proponent of natural law. Does he think human beings are naturally occurring then? And if not, to what degree should natural law apply to humanity?
Okay, great questions. We'll go with Andrea's first question. So this is a very common question, and I get it. It's valid when you're talking with someone about the illegitimacy of government. First, let's define the word government. Government comes from gubernare, which is Latin for control, and ment or mentes means mind. So the word government literally means mind control. Now, there's two connotations with this, right? Because you can look at it as external government, meaning that someone is controlling other people's mind. This is what we have in the world, governments controlling people, violating them. And then we have internal government, meaning that I have control over my mind. So the only legitimate and valid government is self-governance, meaning that individuals control their own mind. They understand responsibility and accountability, and they're responsible for their own actions. And we talked about kind of the rules, the principles of morality, which is the non-aggression principle. You owe everyone one thing, and that's do no harm, do not initiate harm. And then the second is the non-aggression was the sacred feminine, and the second, the sacred masculine, is the self-defense principle, meaning that if you are aggressed upon, you have the right, the natural right to defend yourself. So both of those put together, understanding those principles gives you self-ownership, meaning you own yourself. You own your thoughts and your actions, so you are responsible for yourself. Right? Now, we look at the world today, this is what government wants to do. Government is making the claim of ownership onto the people, the land, the air, the planet. They are making that claim of ownership. And that's exactly what the definition of slavery is. Slavery is a claim of ownership. So, the question that Andrea asked is a very common question. When people hear about a society without external government, the government that we have now, they immediately want to know, okay, well, how is society going to operate? And really, those are long questions of potentials, because it really comes down to a matter of imagination. So, for instance, there is one thing that we need to know, is that it needs to be based on moral principles of do no harm, right? So no one gets violated, and voluntary interaction. And if someone gets violated, they have the right to defend themselves. Those principles right there are inherent to the natural world. Every living being has a defense mechanism. You go up, you slap a bear, that bear is going to defend himself, right? Etc. Human beings are no different. We have the right to defend ourselves. And we also need to understand that we cannot initiate harm. So the inner workings of a society need to be based upon a voluntary interaction. And guess what? We have the capability of cooperating together and using the greatest asset that a human being has, and that is the imagination. So of course we're going to have to figure out how certain things are going to work. Is it going to be more of an egregore system? Definitely, it's going to be more localized, right? Because here in my local town, why do we need to worry about or operate with someone in a completely different town as far as the fundamental operations of that town, right? So it would definitely be more localized. My point being, that's a long conversation, but the ego always wants to know, okay, well, how is this going to work? How is that going to work? It wants to know what the world would look like in a condition of true freedom, because it is scared. And rightfully so. I understand that. So, but understanding that if having everything mapped out first on how the world's going to operate in a system of true freedom, if people need to know that first before they stop participating in the system that we have now, one based off of violence, coercion, duress, murder, then that is an internal issue that needs to be resolved. That's the ego holding on to what it is comfortable with versus what is right. So, do I have all the answers to how, society will operate? No, I don't. And to me, that's the beauty of it, is that we get to evolve as a human family and figure that out. But again, we have something that the social engineers do not have. They do not have imagination. They do not create anything new. They just take what human beings, what we create, and then they flip it and they manipulate it and they use deception on it and they invert everything. So, sky's the limit. This does not mean a utopia as well. The word utopia means nowhere. That doesn't exist in this reality. In this reality, this is a school. We are going to learn. There's always going to be balance, meaning there's always going to be someone that's, that could violate someone. This isn't the elimination of all threats. That's illusory. That doesn't exist in nature, in the natural realm. There's always going to be that potential for that to happen. I'm just saying that at where we are at now, we are in an extreme imbalanced state. So far imbalanced and opposition to nature that we are suffering extreme consequences, and it is going to get worse. We need to bring that into homeostasis and into symbiosis to nature, and that is the majority of people need to understand the laws of nature and how they operate.
Before you get into that second question, I just wanted to put up this comment here. Just kind of what you were saying here. Belinda says, sounds like a picture perfect world. I don't believe that will ever happen. Too much negative history. And I think that when you feel that it'll never happen, it sets us all back, because there's so many of us here that are working towards building this better world for all of us to enjoy, and all the people that put it into consciousness that we could never get there, I think sets us all back from getting there. What's your thoughts there, Will?
Yeah, well, first we need to understand, reality is that there's no such thing as perfection. Perfection does not exist in this reality, because where we are at now, this is a schoolyard. We incarnate here to learn, to hurt, and learn from that hurt, to experience pain and learn from that pain, and grow and evolve in consciousness. That's what this reality is. So that's why I was saying it does not mean that if we get rid of external government, that doesn't mean that there's going to be, total peace and perfection, and there's going to be no bad. There's always going to be that opportunity of someone violating you, for sure. But who better than you yourself to protect yourself? And if there's the elderly, absolutely. You understand that that person is old. I'm going to help that person out if that person was getting jumped, mugged, or whatever. But a lot of the issues today are generated by government and a lack of knowledge and ignorance. So for us to get to that place where we are in balance, a place of true freedom, we need a lot of people to understand just the base principles, the fundamentals of reality, and that is morality.
Second part of the second question was, so Will is a proponent of natural law. Does he think human beings are naturally occurring then? And if not, to what degree should natural apply to humanity?
To what degree should natural law apply to humanity? Well, natural law applies to humanity. It's binding and immutable. Does not matter if you don't believe in it. If you haven't discovered it yet, it is applying to you. You put your hand on a hot stove, you are going to get burned. If human beings are immoral in their actions, they are going to experience control, duress, and suffering. This is the law. So it applies to everything. It's important to understand that it gives us the consequences of our actions. So human beings, we are absolutely, we are natural, right? This is what I see God or nature as. This is the base principle of animism, is that there is an animating life force in everything that animates us. So absolutely, we are not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. We are a part of this co-creation. This is why it is important that we take action, because we are ultimately the stewards of this planet. This is what we're here to do. The planet is alive. The anima mundi, meaning the soul of the world, she is a living being, and we are part of the biosphere, the ecosystem of her, and all other beings as well. So we need to do our part as human beings and be responsible for ourselves, and ultimately grow up as spiritual beings and activate.
Now, Andrea says, what do you do with those who murder?
Well, what would you do with them, Andrea? That's the question I like to ask. What would you do if there were no private corporatized prisons, right? I mean, I'm not for prisons in general. So, I mean, if someone killed your family member, I mean, I personally don't think that person has the right to live in that condition. But again, that's something that a community would have to talk about and figure out what they would want to do with a murderer. If someone stole my car, I definitely think that person in the community that person resides could get some help and work through any type of internal issues that they were working through and can, come out the other side. Like, we need to understand that the majority of people that are in prison, they're in prison because the state has put them there, because they had a plant and they went to jail for it, or they were doing something to their own body and they went to prison. So we need to. This is where the imagination comes in. This is what being an adult is. If you were in a homestead community of 20 people and someone did something bad, what would you do? So that's always the response that I have when someone has a question. I put it back onto them. So what do you think you would do with a murderer or a theft in your small community? And that's the beauty of human beings. We are divine, capable beings to work through this and organize and put our minds together and develop a society of cohesion. For sure.
Chris says, the question is, what do you do about harm being caused?
Correct. Yep. What do you do about harm being caused? I mean, this is why the self-defense principle needs to be talked about extremely well. So in a case of murder, is it someone else's responsibility to protect yourself? The answer is no. It's your responsibility. Even with the police, someone is harming you, you call the police, they show up 15, 20 minutes later. It's not their responsibility. An individual needs to understand that they have the right, they have the obligation, they have the duty to understand the self-defense principle and to protect themselves. Now, I mean, of course, if you have someone that is disabled or elderly and they're not capable of doing that, I understand that. I totally understand that. And that's a real world problem that people have. But for the average person that is capable, they need to understand self-defense. So that's what we do about harm. Education. That's where it's at.
And I think that this, murder question is something that really needs to be talked about and discussed, because, you said if someone comes and kills your family, they don't have a right to live, right? So you would feel
they forfeit their right to live.
They
correct.
Forfeit their right for their live. So then you feel you'd be justified in killing them.
Oh, I would be justified in killing them.
Okay, so
because
now so you'd be justified in killing them. So you would go and then kill them. Now their family, mother, brother, sister, now, even though they were in the wrong, would feel that you went and killed them. Now they would want to come back and get retribution. Now somebody in your family would think, and how would this stop the ongoing? Because two wrongs don't make a right.
But that's not correct, though.
But as well as it could perpetuate things to spin totally out of control.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things on that. It's not two wrongs. It was one wrong. Because killing and murder are two separate things. One is a violation of natural rights. The other one is self-defense. Now, I get what you're saying. I totally get it, right? There's retribution. It's going back and forth. These are things that a society, a community would have to talk about. So that's what I mean. These type of questions, they lead people into cul-de-sacs of, well, I need to know what would happen. What would be the inner workings? My whole message, those conversations are, they're fun, but they don't help where we're at now. What we do know is that we have a control system that is murdering people, raping people, coercing people, violating people in duress. That system is wrong. It's immoral. It's in opposition to nature. It needs to end for sure. Now, starting any type, you can have a council right? I mean, the imagination, you can do whatever. The council could be on voluntary interaction. So if someone broke into my house, right, and killed my family member, and I killed them right there on the spot, who's to say you don't have a council of people that, in voluntary interaction decide the outcome, or maybe I didn't kill him, what should happen to that murderer. That's we need to unlearn how we think the world operates. So by saying that there needs to be no external government, that does not mean that you can't have a council, you can't have a group of people, you can't have security, you can't have an armed force, but it has to be based on moral principles and voluntary interaction, right? So these are the type of things, these are the inner workings that are, again, they are good to talk about. And I know a lot of people in this community that do talk about there, and there's a lot of people that have excellent, resources and discussions based on that, based on these scenarios. And my point being is we can do whatever we want as long as it is moral and it aligns with moral first principles. So of course we would have, a council, a group of people in the community, etc.
Now, what about animals then? If someone goes and, kills an animal, murders an animal, they prey upon it, thank it, do the hunter thing. I've got friends that do that, do it to try to be as respectful as they can and use it to feed their family. Again, you said there's only one truth. So what is the
Correct.
truth? Does that animal have a right to live? Or does that person have a right to feed his family? And to take a step one even further, what about people that start to get sick when they don't eat meat and they actually need that? So who's to
Sure.
decide whether that animal has a right to be food for someone that will die or be sickly and die if they don't get that meat?
So every being has within them self-preservation. This is a part of incarnating in this reality. The question is it out of balance? So yeah, if you're stranded on an island or some extreme case or whatever it may be, right? Although the truth is that animal is not your property, you do not have a right to kill that animal, but you do have the free will choice to decide to kill that animal, right? So there is a balance. So if you're asking me in a community, what would happen if someone goes and kills a deer? Well, I mean, that has to be decided within that community. Is it you have to understand that animals and humans are still at different levels. So if there's a radical vegan community that wants to do something to a person, they can't harm that other person for that type of violation. So we need to understand when we're talking about human to human and human to animal. So although yes, it is an immoral act and there will be energetic and karmic repercussions to that, right? We're not violating another human being. So that's an individual choice that someone has to make.
I like that answer. Now, we have That Way who comes to a lot of our interviews and says our name, if we're using our corporate, birth certificate, legal, I guess, name is just supporting the beast system. That Way constantly says, get away from our name, lose our name, then they don't have a way to track and trace us. You're not supporting the beast system, and they feel if everybody just did away with that corporate birth certificate name, that they think that that's actually the mark of the beast, is our mark, that signature, that corporate name, that we are all part of that mark of the beast by continuing to use that name. Just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Well, me personally, I don't think a piece of paper has control over me. I understand that there's other human beings that think pieces of paper have some type of authority, so they act on that. Again, going back to actions in the world, this is what creates, this is what manifests the actual actions. So, for instance, the Constitution, right? In America, the Constitution, people believe that their rights derive from the Constitution. So if they invoke the Constitution in a courtroom or to an order follower, that has some type of power. And absolutely it does not. You're just literally saying words from a piece of paper. Our rights derive from creation because we exist. Now, again, it comes down to our actions. So if everyone retracts their corporate entity, that's going to collapse the system. I mean, no disrespect to that person, but it's laughable to me that all of a sudden the social engineers are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you said the magic word, you did the magic thing for the piece of paper, or you filed your documentation correctly. We give up our power, we do that kind of stuff." It's not based in reality. It's concepts in the mind. So what really affects our current human condition is people influencing family members that are in the police and military and getting them to understand that they're taking immoral, wrong livelihood and that they need to quit their cult. Anyone that's working in government positions needs to quit their job. Right? That's contributing to the actual beast system. Okay, not a name or a piece of paper. The mark of the beast. This is what the mark of the beast is. It is immoral action. That's what it is. A police officer, an order follower, a military, they have the mark of the beast because they are performing immoral actions without conscience. They are doing it. That is the mark of the beast. Those are the people, those are the grunts, the strong arm, the gears that keep the system going. So when we start to see real change in the world, we will see, government officials, police and military quit their jobs. That's what we will see. And we will see, even before that, we need to see a lot more people talking about objective morality. How many people in the public can define what a right is? What are rights? Where do our rights come from? See, this is the most fundamental information that the most people can't even answer correctly. They'll say, "Oh, the Constitution." They'll say the Bible, right? So it's not based in truth. It's not based in reality, in nature. So that's kind of my response. And, and I see a lot of it, a lot of people saying, "Oh, we need to focus on this common law. There's this procedure to exit out of the matrix." There is no exiting out of the matrix. The matrix, first and foremost, is the mind of an individual. You need to unslave yourself, free your mind first, and then get to work on ending the human condition of slavery. That's what it is.
So does that maybe coincide with the question, why are we here?
Yeah, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Was that all the question was? Why are we here?
Yeah, well, that's I'm just kind of
I'm sorry. I thought you put up.
Yeah.
Got it.
No.
Thought it was
So that's
a viewer question.
kind of like with what you're saying, my kind of next. Well, one of the questions I had earlier is, why are we here? And you almost kind of answered it in that, but maybe if you want to just kind of elaborate to why are we here?
Great question. My upcoming presentation, I'm focusing on meaning and purpose. It's titled Spirituality, but meaning and purpose. So, what's the meaning of life, right? The meaning of life, of us as, divine, infinite consciousness incarnating in this reality, is to lower entropy, to learn and to evolve in consciousness. Really, it's to evolve a soul, right? We just don't automatically have souls. We come here to evolve a soul. That's what we're here to do, right? That's our purpose, is to evolve in consciousness through lessons, through our dharma. Now, the meaning of life, why we're here, is the meaning of life is freedom. So we are here to express ourselves and to learn from certain lessons. But yet we can't do that in our current human condition because we are enslaved. We are being violated. We cannot express we cannot perform our free will expression. We're being violated, right? So that automatically hinders our progression in consciousness. So, and that also detracts what our purpose would be, like our natural progression. Like I'm very much into herbalism, and my dharma is to be a badass gardener. I can't fulfill that dharmic, that soul path in this life because we are enslaved. I have the moral duty and obligation to fight this slavery. So my purpose changes. We are here to learn how to be a moral human being, to evolve consciousness. So that means we are here to educate and inspire other human beings to end the human condition of slavery, so that the future generations, our children, can have that birthright of freedom in the world, so that they can freely express themselves unrestricted and unrestrained. That is what our current purpose is to fight this war. And it is a war on all levels. The spiritual domain is both the metaphysical and the physical domain as one. That's the spiritual domain. So this very much is a war for souls. And we are going to keep coming back here until we recognize what is going on and we contribute to the solution, or we are going to devolve. And the force of involution, which is that the imploding force, which folds in and breaks down to its fundamental elements, that's going to happen to the individuals that are unconscious and that do not act in the world. So we are here to perform and to activate moral, right action, wisdom.
Now, can someone lose their soul, or even worse, sell their soul, or even worse, be soulless here in a meat suit walking around?
Good question. I don't really know. I don't have I'll give you my answer, but I don't know. I don't think any of us really know definitively. Now, yes, like I was saying, if we're here to grow and evolve a soul, meaning we have multiple lifetimes that we learn these lessons and our soul grows from that. And, in understanding the principles of animism and just observing nature, we can see that we were probably animals before human beings. So there's steps and levels of spirit. It's like it's a toroidal field. It's a spiral, right? So we work our way up. Now, of course, a human being, through their free will choice, this is why it's considered the greatest gift. And this is what separates us from even the animal kingdom, is that we can choose. We have that free will choice to choose if we want to activate or not, if we want to be moral or not, right? So if somebody, makes incorrect choices, does that have an effect on your soul path, your dharma? Absolutely it does. Natural law is always in effect. There's always going to be a consequence for every choice. So, the people, the soulless ones, which is a term that the dark occultists use for the public, for the majority of people. They call them the soulless ones. They call them the unbegun, meaning the unbegun. They have not set foot on the path of true initiation, on what it means to become a spiritual adult, to awaken. So that's what they call them, the unbegun. And they call the masses of human beings the dead, because they are dead inside. They are not activated. Their heart space their soul is not activated. So sure, are there many people, people call them NPCs, that they're just husks of people that just are implementing just, psychological programs and act in the world a certain way, that have been infiltrated and influenced and mind controlled by the social engineers and the sorcery. Absolutely there are. Absolutely. Some of them are not as bad, and us as individuals of, content creators, influencers. I don't like that word, influencers. I'm creating art to inspire others. Then yeah, sometimes those people can wake up. I mean, look at you, Jesse. Look at me. We didn't come into this incarnation awake of what is going on in the world, right? Maybe you, but not. I know I didn't. It wasn't until about 2011, 2012 before I started realizing, oh shit, this isn't how human beings. We shouldn't be living like this. So we had a hindrance in our soul progression as well. But then through our willpower, we activated and applied care, focus, attention, that spiritual currency that you were talking about earlier. And we applied that to ourselves, and we gained information and knowledge and gnosis, and we applied it to ourselves, and we took action on that. Some people might not have it in them this lifetime, and they're going to keep reincarnating, and they will come back even worse and worse until eventually, they're literally, their bodies break down into the fundamental elements. They might even go back into the animal level of consciousness, plant, mineral, or elemental. That's the force of involution. So it's our job to inspire people to activate that light within.
Yeah, I've been awake and aware to things for a very long time. I remember I was young and I would see those World Vision commercials on where the people in Ethiopia had no food, and I couldn't comprehend why we're throwing away all this food and other people, were starving and didn't have food, and it didn't make any sense to me. And 30 plus years ago, I was trying to rally the troops of all these like rough and tough people to take back the government, like 30 plus years ago. So I've been kind of awake
Great,
and aware
man.
and rattling the cages for a very, very long time. We have a
Real
question
quick.
here. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
real quick, I just want to say something quickly on what you were just saying. And that's great. I love hearing that, Jesse. If everyone that's watching now, if they ask themselves, what was the modality? What helped them in their increased awareness? Like, how did they started their journey of awakening? What was the means and the modality? And the majority of people are going to say some type of media, whether it was YouTube, whether it was even books or watching documentaries or Zeitgeist back in the day or podcasts. It was some type of digital media. And that's why creating digital media and publishing that on the digital battlefield is the solution, along with the true diagnosis and the cause.
Yeah, I like that because, like, for me, it was a commercial. It was a media commercial, and we are kind of in this. The whole programming of the Earth, the Matrix. Like you said, you can't really get out of the Matrix. It's everywhere, and that if we can make a big dent, or we can rattle the cages, we can actually really inspire people through media, their programming. Jason Christoff, he's a self-sabotage coach, and he says he uses their techniques to program people to unprogram them. So he kind of uses the same type of things. So
Exactly.
and the question here from Taffy was, so what do you believe in? Who do you seek for answers, or is it yourself?
Great question. And my answer might sound weird to a lot of people. I am totally anti-belief. I try to be honest with myself, and I do not hold beliefs. I use the process of truth discovery to the best of my ability, and I seek to achieve gnosis, meaning that I can come to know something and understand it, or I don't know it, or I have, I can speculate, or I have opinions, but I do not hold beliefs. All beliefs are based in dogma. If it was based in facts or truth, it would not be a belief. It would be knowledge. This is the difference between knowledge and belief. So I think that's really, really important. Who do I learn from? I have a huge library. I'm an animist, which means I observe nature. I observe the world. I understand the principles of natural law, and that's an ongoing process, right? We don't just reach totality. It's an ongoing process, but we have stages of understanding and of this knowledge and of knowing where we can know truth. We can know truth, absolutely. So I'm just brutally honest on and analyzing. Do I believe this? Because when you believe something, most of the time you want to believe it. And I don't want to believe anything. I want to know, and then I want to apply it in my behavior and in my actions.
And I just wanted to welcome all the people that we have here. We've been running around between 130, 150 people here live. I don't know what happened on Twitter, but for the last 4 or 5 days, they've released the algorithm, and we have 16 people on Twitter right now, when we only had 1 or 2 before, and we're up to 30 people when Dr. Shiva was on. So I know you all don't comment here too much, but I'm not sure where y'all are from or how you're all watching this, but I'm thankful that we are reaching more people on all the different platforms. And you've got people on your Will Keller YouTube channel and your Freedom under, I think it's Natural Law. I think it doesn't tell me at all, but
Yes,
you've got people
the funnel
on both.
conference.
Yeah, they got you have people on both of those channels here watching live. So appreciate that. So one thing that you said is that you feel that we maybe evolved from animals. So are you an evolutionist then?
No, absolutely not. I think that the mainstream theory of evolution, like Darwin, even Darwin himself said it was a theory. That's a complete, psychological operation. I'm talking about our soul progression. That's what I mean. I don't mean, physical evolution where we have evolved from chimps. That's fully debunked. If someone wants to look into that, I highly recommend. Michael Tellinger makes good content. Lloyd Pye, highly recommend his work. His research alone is just, it's so tremendous and it's important. But yeah, so when I say evolve, I'm talking about our soul path.
So do you believe that there is a God, a creator, that kind of created this whole thing for us?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, this is what nature is. Nature, God, creator, it's the animating principle of everything, of all. It is the all. So this is the mind and the life force that is in everything.
Taffy says, question, who made the natural law and where does it come from?
The natural law, it comes from exactly what the definition of the word is. Natural meaning creator, creation, and law, the binding immutable conditions. So it's from creation. It's from the creator. Just like observing the natural world. If you observe the natural world, you're observing the creator in action. And I mean, everything that happens has a rhyme and a reason. Nature, there's no waste. all the functions and the modalities in the external natural world, they correspond to our internal ecology as well, and we can learn more about the forces of nature. But when I say nature, I mean exactly what the definition means: creator. That's what it is. So, like water, water is creator consciousness. Yeah, it's a part of it. Absolutely. All of the elements.
I really like when we get, comments like this here at Karen, been taking notes, great show. Like
I
that's
love
such
that.
a beautiful, beautiful comment just to say, that, you're actually appreciating the wisdom being, shared here. And, Will is very intelligent. So I was really excited about him coming back here onto the missing link to be able to share his knowledge with us all here today and allow me to pick his brain a little bit. Some
You always
people
have
said,
great questions, Jesse. I love it.
and it's just I used to write a whole bunch of questions down. Angeline and I would do all this research, and I felt it kind of got us out of the flow. So we just kind of let it just natural. We let source guide the way. We try to include the audience as much as possible, and just whatever question next pops into the head is the one that comes
Yeah.
firing out. So I think that we like this format, and it seems to be working really well. When we talked about the Illuminati card game that you had, some people were saying um, they were saying about, oh, alien invasion is next. Alien invasion. I'm not sure if you saw that in one of the cards I don't know if you've looked through it all, but
Hmm.
what's your thoughts on aliens, people from or beings from other places, interdimensionals, aliens? Is this the next part of the test? Is some kind of attack on humanity, and we need the military industrial complex to protect us from these alien invaders? Like, do you think that that's a possibility, or just more fear put into consciousness?
Well, I mean, I think it's a possibility that they're going to utilize that thought form, right? I mean, even if it's self-induced, meaning the government institutions and the military-industrial complex do a fake alien invasion. I mean, this is what they want to do. They just want the perception. They want to give the perception so that they get the reaction and they get the behavior that's attached to it, which is their solution. This is where they want people to be. Um, so I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, if they're going to do that down the line. I mean, I didn't know the whole pandemic was coming down the pipe, but that happened. So there's so many different ways that they can infiltrate the information and the minds of individuals. So I try to stay grounded on my mental diet, on the information that I take in. But it's definitely a possibility that can happen, that they could stage some type of false alien invasion. They have the technology to do that, and they have the brainwashed unconscious masses to believe it, to see that deception and to act on it. So it could be a possibility. It could be a possibility that they take out the grid. That could be another one too, but not likely. They want to keep their control. They want to keep people in this in-between confusion state, because that's where they can manipulate perception and also get their outcome. Like you were saying, order out of chaos. The chaos comes from the mind. People don't know what's true, what truth is, and they act accordingly.
How about supernatural experiences? Have you had any with some other beings, with some angels, with some demons, like anything, besides someone in a, meat suit, walking around? Like, have you had your own personal experiences with something on the other side, or, other dimensions, or, kind of like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. two couple points. One, DMT, dimethyltryptamine, really, it opens up your whole lens, so you're getting a wider bandwidth of reality, and absolutely you can interact with other entities. So yes, I've had some incredible, mind-blowing interactions just by communing with dimethyltryptamine. But outside of that, in 2013, I read Bob Monroe's 3-book trilogy, Journeys Out of the Body. And it really got me into practicing some techniques of getting into the etheric astral dimension, layer of reality. And I accomplished that a handful of times. So just about 6 or 7 times, fully out of the body, just localized in my house, my area. But I had, when on my 6th, it was 6th or 7th time, and I wanted to venture out, I was, right when I came out of body, there was a dark shadow figure. It felt neutral in energy, right? It not bad or good. It just felt neutral, and it told me directly, and shadow couldn't see a face or anything, and it said, "The work is done in the body." That's what it said to me. And it was like an instant download as well, because I understood exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about, you're having fun with this, but one, you're not ready, and this is not where the work is. The work is done in the body, right? So I took that as a sign, and I did not go out of body after that. Very much focused into other types of work of what is going on in our human condition. But even to this day, I use the techniques that Bob Monroe shared, and what I use to get out of body, I use that as what I call a recharge method. So I very comfortable before I fall asleep. I get in my bed and I perform the techniques, and I get into almost it's the stage right before you pull yourself out of body, and it's a very electrifying, charging, energetic, and vibration. And I stay in that state for a good amount of time. Kind of lose track of time when I'm in that state, but then I go to sleep and I wake up and I feel fantastic, like fully charged. And I think, that's why I call it kind of like a recharge method. And that could be, my vital body, my etheric body, detaching somewhat, hovering, separated from the physical body, and kind of just absorbing the energy around me and just charging, which this is what we do naturally in sleep, right? When we have our sleep cycle. So, but that's pretty much, those are my 2 experiences with entities that I can absolutely confirm. I've had some really good, communions with plant medicines and stuff like that in nature by myself that have been great and fantastic. So,
What do you think happens when we sleep?
yeah. So when we sleep, what we call the dream state, I definitely think it's the astral etheric, and we are in a unconscious state, but we are free floating in that realm. And this is kind of where we pick up on dreams from. The whole purpose of doing an out of body experience is that you are, through your will, your free will, you are initiating that process consciously. So that's the difference. Lucid dreaming would be consciously affecting the dream state of the mind, right? So I think, when we go to sleep, when we dream, it's twofold. We are actually out of body, having these experiences that we are not conscious of, which we interpret as a dream, or we're in a mental thought pattern, which we also call dreams. So it's twofold. I think we have a dream that feels really real, or we've had that dream multiple times. That's more of something like in the astral etheric realm. That's my opinion.
What about, things that, maybe, um, like telekinesis, telepathy, manifestation abilities? Like, do you think that there's a lot more to this experience that maybe that we are supposed to have, that we are, trying to learn to get to some of these things that has been hidden from us,
Mm.
maybe genetically or mentally, consciously? Like, do you think that we are a lot more powerful than what they have programmed us to be?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. The ancients knew this. This is why they were so advanced in their technologies, because they understood how natural law worked. They understand the human mind and consciousness. What the materialist scientists nowadays call gray matter in the brain. This is just inactive portions of our DNA, right? That's not activated. And then, new science is confirming what the ancients already knew and talked about within occultism, in coded allegory, that epigenetics is the causal factor of gene expression, that our consciousness affects our gene expression. So this is finally coming out into the mainstream science, which is also really important. And my videos on this topic have been taken down super quick. This realm of epigenetics. But understanding that, well, epigenetics means beyond the genes, beyond the physical. So we're talking about the metaphysical domain, that our thoughts are the prime. They are prime, they are first, and they have an effect on our gene expression. This is why the social engineers have these psychological operations and, these false flags and the deception and inversion of information, because if it's in our thought, it affects our body. Not only our actions, but it affects our physical vessel. So the ancients understood this. I think we definitely could, in the future, of course, there's kind of a process that we need to do. We are not evolving in consciousness. We are not evolving in our physical vessel as well, with genetic modifications and all this. So that's a factor, but absolutely, it is a potential for a situation where we are in that state of freedom, where we can consciously evolve in mind and in consciousness. The ancients knew this. Somebody mentioned water in the chat. I did a presentation on water, how water itself is the bridge. It's the median between spirit and matter. And this is where people talk about water memory, right? Water memory is in effect, the cause is that the harmonic resonance of the geometry of the water molecule acts as a dipole antenna. So this is a bridging factor for holographic consciousness to manifest in this reality. So spirit and matter. The ancients knew this. This is why they had tanks in their temples and the pyramids, and they filled those up with water, and they would lay in them, and absolutely it helped increase the signal. If water is an antenna, water's in our body, it's the bridge of information and even memory, we can access that. Then absolutely you can unlock portions of the mind, for sure, and physically in the brain. And this is why even the ancient oracles of Greece, what did they do? They went fully submerged underwater. So understanding the esoteric attributes of the elements is really important, like water, the essence of life.
Angeline and I have gone to some sound baths that have been on swimming pools, like inside an indoor pool. And all of the floaties were all over the whole entire pool, and everybody was on a floaty. And then they came with all the music and the instruments, and it was just unreal, the power
Mm.
with that water and the music and the people. Like, water is definitely very powerful tool that I think it's underutilized, and I think we're starting to learn more and more about frequencies and vibrations and water. I think that that all is going to start elevating us to a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very passionate about water. I highly recommend people check out my Spirit of Water because there's there's a slight misconception that people have that water stores memory, and that's actually inaccurate. This is what I was talking about, the principle versus the attribute, or the cause versus the effect. See, one thing that the social engineers do not want people to understand is the ether itself, the field of consciousness that is around us, the field of information that is all around us. This is what water does. Water is an antenna that allows us to access the information all around us. So, just people say that it stores information or it has memory. The memory's in the ether, all around us. Water is that antenna, is that bridge.
Now, say it was, I don't know, 1 or 2 a.m., and you just felt the need to go to take the dog for a walk, and you're walking outside, and some ship came flying up, and some alien looking things came out of it, reptilian, gray, tall gray, whatever looking, and said, "Will, you need to come with us." What do you do?
That's a great question. And I'm going to put my dog down. That's what I would do first. I would look that alien in the eye and I would ask that alien this question. Do you know right over wrong? I thought it was a perfect setup to promote my shirt. But yeah, no. But it is, good question. It's like that movie. What's that movie? K-Pax, where the alien comes down and is in a human body to interact with humanity to see their progress, right? And I forget the character's name. Asks K-Pax. He says, "You don't have government where you're from?" And he says, "Government? What's that?" "Well, it's someone that, decides right from wrong and makes sure, people obey the rules." And he says, and K-Pax, the alien, says, "No, we don't have that." And the guy's like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, every being in the universe knows the difference between right and wrong." So it's a great question. This is what separates us from adulthood to infancy. We don't understand the basic principles of morality. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would say that. I would ask the alien that, I would ask him some questions, or her, or it, whatever. But I would be skeptical for sure. But ask some questions. I believe you can ask someone questions and kind of see their response and gauge, level of consciousness, their intentions, that kind of stuff. Really read the energy. So it would be fascinating. Growing up on a ranch, I considered it many times, just looking up at the night sky, seeing weird things in the sky that didn't look like stars or ships, but maybe orbs or something. And that thought came across my mind many times as a young kid.
Yeah, I've been on my buddy's houseboat and sleeping up. I'm sleeping up on the thing, grab my pillow and blanket. I'm sleeping up on nice dark cove and seeing all the things moving up in the sky and the lights and things flashing. And I'm yelling, "Oh, beat me up, Scotty. I'm getting in." Some flying ship comes in. I have no fear. I'm going wherever it's taking me, because I think that would be a wild, wild thing. I'd want Angelina. I'd say my dog's coming, and we got to go pick up Angeline. So, but I think that would be a wild, wild adventure.
That would be an intense experience. I would rather have a conversation with an entity and gather information. Me personally, I mean, going on a ride, sure, that would be incredible. But if it was like, come with us and not knowing if you want to come back, I love the earth. I love nature, and it's huge potential. It's just, humans we need to get our act together.
Do you think that it's waters above us or space above us?
So, just by definition, there's no such thing as space. Space, nothing can have no properties. So, even in the area around here, which we call space or the air, it is obviously filled with a whole bunch of stuff, and the ether itself is all around us. I don't know. I've never been up there, and but of course, the governments of the world, NASA, never a straight answer, are definitely lying and propagating huge amounts of deception. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Do you think that there's more land out there than they're telling us? That maybe the Earth is a lot bigger than what they're proposing it is to consciousness?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I've looked into that a little bit, and I've looked into the revision of history as well. Those absolutely could be potentials. So I hold those as potentials, but I don't put huge stock in that. Just because I can't go there. They're hiding something, so it's a potential. But until we clean up our current situation, we might never get those type of answers. So the Vatican's got what, 5 miles of books underground. It's like I want those. I want to see what those are all about. So we're in a place where the availability of information, right, is restricted. So we can't we can't discover the truth on a lot of topics because we have lack of information. So, yeah, not sure.
What about where was I just kind of lost that. I guess I looked at that thing. What else do you feel that you need to accomplish while you're here?
In life,
Yeah, just general. What do you think that you still like? What are some of your goals? What are some things that you really want to aspire to, creating or finishing off before are on to the next?
my dharma, which dharma means right action. That's literally what it means. Karma means action, and dharma means right action. So my dharma is to spread this message and to inspire as many people as possible to activate. So focused on working on my delivery, the art that I create in many different forms and fashions, to help people in this war, to get them to take action in reality. That's my obligation. That's my duty. And that's going to be a lifelong process, and I'm in it for the longevity, 100%. And of course, being a father, I want my daughter to understand that, her dad tried the best that he could, and I want her to know what I have been doing. She knows what I do now. She comes to presentations and public speaking engagements with me. She understands what's going on in the world. But, secure a good future for her, and hopefully, inspire change as much as possible. If we don't have our kids on the forefront of our minds, right, then we are doing humanity, we are doing our children a huge disservice by not activating and taking action, because we are just passing on more suffering to them. So we need to break the cycle of generational trauma. This is what ancestral trauma is all about as well. Like, we're contributing to that. We need to break the cycle. This is why a big part of my message is conscious parenting. If parents wake up to objective morality, natural law, and what true freedom is, and they act on that, then if we can get more parents to do that, then we absolutely will see an amplification of change in our current condition. Because as of right now, this all all ignorance is stemming from the parent family dynamic, because this is our first structure. This is our first experience when we are born, is our parents and the family dynamic. This is why the state wants to infiltrate that as much as possible. They want to put a divide between mother and father, create tension, or promote the separation, or get the children into the indoctrination camps as early as possible in the formative years. They want the child's mind ASAP, because if you can do that, then you're programming a slave, and we're going to constantly be playing catch up in this battle if parents don't wake up and start understanding that to raise a kid means you are raising their consciousness up to a higher level. And that entails objective principles. The objective principles of parenting is objective morality, learning how to correctly operate in the world, learning nature, natural law, how reality operates, and learning how to think, which is the trivium method of truth discovery. Those are the three principles that every parent needs to understand and influence and teach their children, right? And we really only get 9-10 years before our kids are in that phase where autonomy and individual aspirations are activated, and they're gone from the nest. So the formative years is where it's at, and if your children are grown, you could still have those conversations and have that influence and inspiration for your children. But parents 100% need to step up.
Where can people find you? What can people find on your website, willkeller.com? How can people find your shirt if they were interested?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Again, my hub website, the official website is willkeller.com. You can get to my podcast episodes. We had a lot of phenomenal guests, and you can get access to the Funnel Freedom Under Natural Law Conference, and you could see the replays on that. All my presentations are up there as well, and my interviews. You can support or donate through that website. You can contact me. I love interacting with people for questions on clarification questions, or anything on the tech as well. Someone that wants to get activated but needs some type of leads on where to start. I can help in that aspect as well. So I highly recommend people, start with my presentations. I try to use a logical progression, a tapestry, to break down information and give it in a concise, simplistic way for people to gather that information and have that clarity, that clear, high definition. And again, I'm also on the One Great Work Network, which people can access through my website. And that's a network it's hosted by Mark Passio from OneOnEarthIsHappening.com. 75 content creators, all under the umbrella of true freedom, natural law, and morality. And there's all different types of flavors and different types of creative expression on there. Fantastic platform. 24/7 video player. So highly recommend people go check that out. And and then all my social media platforms are on my website as well. So I hope people got some really good value. I hope I sparked some interest, insight, and inspiration. And Jesse, I love what you're doing on the Missing Link. Keep doing it. Keep doing that great work, brother. And thanks for having me on, man.
You're most welcome. And this was definitely, we appreciate, I appreciate it. And there's so many people in the comments that really appreciated it as well. Andrea says, let's see the shirt. Do you know right over wrong? And then willkeller.com and morality and truth. Objective morality and truth, natural law. That's very cool.
Yeah, the back might be hard to read, but it says, only when the knowledge of objective morality and natural law become common sense will humanity be free. And that's the truth of it. It's got to be common sense knowledge.
Do you wear it everywhere you go?
I guess you could say I'm kind of a shirt junkie. I love shirts that spark conversation. Um, for instance, Mark Passio has "Government is Slavery." That shirt. Like, I love wearing shirts that make a statement or engage or initiate conversation. So I love wearing shirts like that. And I'm going to have my shirts posted on my website. People can check them out. And that's what it's about. I'm like, when I'm walking around, I want to talk to people as well. So, having that digital platform of reaching a large audience, and also in my day-to-day life, I want to, converse with people and hope to inspire them that way.
That's honorable. Well, thanks so much for your time. May the source be with you, protection around you and your family through this pivotal time in history. Thanks again. May the source be with you all. Thanks everybody for all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. We appreciate all of your love and support, however that may be. We've got one more missing link this week tomorrow with Diego, it's Dwayne Hayes, and he goes by Diego Garcia as well on Facebook. He is a forensic historian, and he really breaks down how we got to where we got to, the political structure of the West, who's tied to who, and how we got here. And just so if we know how we got here, then maybe it's easier to find the way out. So he's been, coming, I think he's been 5 or 6 times already on the missing link with his presentations, and it's always a treat to learn more about where that's coming from. So thanks again, Will. We'll see you next time we see you back here on the missing link. Sending love to you all, and you all have